It's your girl Kizzy, aka Enlightened Intuitive, back with you here for another video. In today's video, I want to talk about my experience in college and what that was like for me, what I was like, because I've definitely changed a lot. And I feel like, through my healing and through my process, I've learned that like every past version of me was necessary in order to be the person that I am today, and that includes the version of me that I was in college. I feel like I felt resentful towards my college self. I felt bad about my college self. When I would look back at my college self, I'd be like, ugh, like I barely wanted to claim my AA degree because I was just so ashamed of the person that I was then, and like how I acted and the things that I did. And it's like I didn't do anything that was like bad, you know what I mean? Like I was a college student, you know what I mean? And I had the college experience. And so it's like I didn't do anything bad. It's just the projections that were put onto me, the expectations that I thought I needed to uphold, and then my own self-talk, my own self-hatred contributed to that um feeling of lack in my college years that I obviously have to heal now, right? It doesn't go away. And that's why it's like I'm making this video, because last night I was actually thinking back to college for myself, and I was thinking about how, I do, excuse the camera moving, guys, it's the wind, but I was thinking about how I do feel like some sort of resistance towards that version of me. And so I feel like it comes from, in college, I first of all, I got my first job when I went to college. So I got my first job when I was 18. Never had a job before that. So I would definitely say I was a late bloomer. I would definitely say I'm somebody who was stifled as a kid, who was like stifled as a child, teen, you know what I mean? Like, and granted, I still had freedom. Like, I was doing whatever I wanted for the most part, right? But as far as like progression as a person, progression as like a human being, that was not really fed. That was not really given to me. And so in college is really where I learned. Like, I literally learned by experience, which you do, right? Which is my whole life, learning by experience. But in college, I really learned by experience. Um, how I wanted to be, who I wanted to be, what life was really like. And so I had my first job when I went to college, and I worked in that job for 4 years. Mostly my whole experience, actually, not mostly, yeah, my whole experience in Tallahassee was um, working at a call center, and I worked there for 4 years. And so I got my first job when I was 18. And when I moved there, me and my friends and I, somebody that I knew prior to moving up there, we were like, okay, we're gonna band together. We're gonna try to find friends. And so she ended up meeting people, and then she ended up calling me over, and that's how we ended up creating a squad, a gay squad, which was like a group of gay girls. At the time, we don't all go by girls anymore. That pronoun, he, her. I mean, he, her. We don't all go by the she, her pronouns, but like back then it was a group of girls and we were just all gays. And so we had that group, and um, from there things really just started moving. I mean, we were partying a lot. The group of us, the squad, we called it. We would party a lot. We would go out a lot. Um, I'm talking like every weekend, every other weekend. None of us were old enough, but like we were always like figuring out, okay, who's gonna do what? Like, how are we gonna get this? Who's gonna do that? Like, we were always, what's the move? What's the play? And I was going to TCC at the time, and everybody else in the group was going to FSU. So you can already imagine what it's like to be going to a community college. And if you can, I'm going to put it in frame for you. But you can already imagine what it's like to be going to a community college already not really knowing what you want to do, still kind of figuring out life and really having experiences that these people have already had, um, and sort of being in a space of hanging around people that go to a university versus you going to a community college. And in hindsight, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with going to a community college, right? There's nothing wrong with them going to a university and me not going to a university, right? But at that time, it's like when we would go to parties or we would go out and people would ask, like, hey, where do you go to school at? And I would say TCC and everybody else would say FSU or everybody else went to FAMU. It was just like, I felt like an outsider. I felt like less than. I felt like you could just see like the energy change once I said that I went to TCC. And I'm sure it was partially my own feelings of lesser, my own feelings of lesser, my own feelings of lack, but then like seeing people's reactions and like seeing how you can just tell, right? The slight judgment or just the blatant judgment that was encountered when I would say that I went to TCC, you could definitely just tell there was like a gap. You know what I mean? It wasn't like if you went to FSU and TCC and FAM, you were seen all the same. No, if you went to TCC, you were over here. If you went to FAM, you were over here. If you went to FSU, you were over here. And so, that was my crowd though, mostly, right? I did know people that went to FAM and I did hang out with people that went to FAM. But for the most part, I really encountered that feeling of lack when I was with my friends that went to FSU. Also, the friends that went to FAMU, but like it was more so me than like them making me feel that way. And so, that was hard for me going to a community college and then having to deal with like going out or just being around people who, already had their majors. They knew what they were doing, they knew what they were going after. They were going to FSU, right? And so it's like that already made me compare myself in a negative way. And then the fact that I didn't know, like I said, what I wanted to do, I switched my major, I think, 3 times. 3 or 4 times. I think it was first education, then it was psychology, then it was social work, and then it was communications, uh, journalism, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so that version of me, I was very lost. I was very down on myself. I was very like my sense of self-worth, my sense of self-respect was just not there. And at the time when I went to college, I was also dating somebody who was abusive. And so I had to deal with dating somebody abusive, going to a new town, adapting to college, partying, being in a long distance relationship which was also like super hard and super annoying, and I would not recommend unless it's like I don't know in what case I would do that again, but like I just LDR is not for me personally. I realized that. Um, and I just felt not good in comparison to everybody else, which was something I really dealt with, was comparison. When I just felt like everybody knows what they want to do, everybody like is on their track, and like we would all party, but like I feel like there were times when they wouldn't party because they were focused on school or because they had class the next day or because they had this or that, and I would be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go out alone. Okay, well, I'm just gonna da da da. And so I still felt, even though we were all partying, even though we were all in the same sort of community, I still felt like I am like just not up to par where these people are. Like I just did not feel like I was enough in general, but like in comparison to everybody else. And so I had a hard time with that because I also didn't have my license. And it's a thing where like you don't have your license, you don't have a car, everybody has a license, everybody has a car. It's like, I had to Uber, I had to take the bus, I had to walk. And so it's just things like that where it's like I was comparing my life to other people's, and I just felt really just like not satisfied in my own life. But I really did not know what else I could do. I did not know where else I could go. I did not know what else. I didn't know what else was for me. I remember, when I was going to TCC, I told my mom and I was like, I think I'm going to drop out. Like, this is just too much. Like, I literally like cannot. Like, I'm going to some classes and I'm like not even paying attention. Like, I remember this music class I had. I just did not give a shit about it. And like, I would go and I would sit there, but like, I just like could not. Like, my brain was just like not calibrating in that class. Like, it just was like, why am I here? Like, I don't want to be here. Like, a lot of the times I just felt that sort of energy going to class. And granted, it's like, I did have fun, right? Partying, going out, meeting new people, drinking, having the college experience, right? Going to classes. Some classes were very cool. Like, there was this one class, the class where like you see stars. It's like a science class. I can't think of the name of that, but that class was cool. I had this other science class was cool. Um, I struggled at math. I think I failed math like 3 times, and on the fourth time I got it right, or I failed it twice, and then on the third time I passed, which was really an accomplishment for me because math, since I was a child, has always just not been a strong suit for me. But yeah, it's not to say like I absolutely hated college and I was miserable the whole time, because that's not the truth. Like, I genuinely did have a good time having the experience, but on the right, and that's the light side. But on the dark side, it's like, looking back, right? Because I didn't really recognize this at the time, but like looking back, I'm like, I was really struggling. Like, I was lost. I felt so down on myself. And then after, I broke up with my abusive partner, I started going on Tinder. And when I started going on Tinder, I would meet people and I would date them. Like, after my first girlfriend, which was the abusive relationship, I got into another relationship. We dated for like 6 months. Then she broke up with me on Valentine's Day. Then I got into another relationship like right after that, and that relationship like started really good, really passionate, really cosmic. And then that person ghosted me like 2 times, and then they came back. And then when they came back, I was already seeing somebody else who I found out later was a narcissist. And so it's like I was just looking for relationships and like alcohol and like escapism and all these things to like get me out of my mind that I now see in the present moment. But before, I didn't consider like, oh, I'm trying to escape. I didn't consider, oh, like I have other options, right? I didn't consider healing. I didn't consider becoming better. I didn't consider that I could have another life outside of going to college. Like, I genuinely thought like, okay, college is the way. Like, this is the only thing I can do. Like, this is the only option for me. Like, and that's why I stayed when my mom said, like, don't drop out, because she was like, a lot of people, when they drop out, they don't go back. And I was like, I really was ready to let it go, but I ended up staying. And then, you know, life took its course and I ended up dropping out anyway, because I feel like college was never for me. I ended up finding my unique path and the journey that I'm on now, and my purpose and my mission and my connection to spirituality. And so it's really interesting to see and look back and just be like, wow, like I was really struggling, in the relationships that I was getting in. These people would make me feel so loved and appreciated and adored and seen and worthy. And then they would almost just like snatch it all back by like breaking my heart, betraying me, hurting me, just sort of something that would cause a imbalance would happen. And then I would just feel so down about myself, right? And I would just be back to square one, which is what made me start my healing journey, because I was like, something has to give. Like, I can't keep like meeting these like, I keep going to relationships, and then relationships keep reflecting to me my feelings of unworthiness, my feelings of not being enough, my feelings of feeling unlovable, my feelings of lack. Like, something has to give, because this is not comfortable. I met my emotional threshold. And that's really when things started to change for me. But not even things started to change for me. I started to change things for me. You know what I mean? And so I ended up making that decision. But when I was in it, it's just like I remember I would do some self-care nights, right? Like, there would be nights where I would do face mask and I would take a bath, and I would journal. I have journals. I've always journaled, but like, I wouldn't be as introspective and reflective as I am now. Like, I wouldn't think how I think now. Like, even in my relationships, I didn't express myself like I express myself now. I didn't have a voice, allow myself to have a voice, didn't know I could have a voice at that time. So I was just very, like, a lot of my energy was repressed and suppressed and stifled and just stiff, right? Most of what I knew how to do was adapt and be flexible to whatever life was throwing at me. I feel like that's always who I've been. But like, for the most part, I really felt weak. I felt dumb. I didn't feel smart. I felt like everybody else is smart and like I'm dumb. And like, granted, I was dating a narcissist, and like also other unhealthy, toxic connections that I had were putting that into me, right? Instilling within me that feeling of lack and feeling of being dumb and feeling of not being enough and all those sorts of lack associated things. But like, I myself just was not envisioned as the person I am today. Like, I didn't even know, like the fact that I am the person that I am today is wild, because I'm just like, I never saw this for myself. It just like happened. Life just happened. And then boom, here I am. You know what I mean? And so I look back, and that's why I wanted to share this today, because I'm like, I look back and I just feel like, while college was a great experience, I don't regret any of it. Like, I am happy for the experience, and I enjoyed parts of it, and it was really fun and experimental and, chaotic and messy. I feel like I also made some immature decisions, some hasty decisions, some decisions that just were not responsible, right? And I felt bad on myself for that. I realized that last night when I was journaling. I was like, I don't. I was like, I feel like I don't like those decisions that I made. Like, I don't like that I didn't have hobbies, that I was lost, that I made reckless decisions, that I made impulsive decisions, that I lack self respect, that I lack self worth, that I put up with all these negative relationships and negative reflections back at me, that I put up with abuse, that I settled in so many areas and spaces. And then I was like, well, do I really feel like there's something wrong with being lost? Do I really feel like there's something wrong with partying in college? Like, do I really feel like there's something wrong with feeling unworthy or unlovable? Do I really feel like there's something wrong with being immature and having to learn to be mature? Do I really feel like there's something wrong with not knowing it all and just like going through the experiments, but the experience of life? You know what I mean? And when I really reflected on that, I was like, actually, I don't. Like, I don't. I'm not. I'm not mad at me for doing that. I think that I just wasn't recognizing it as, it's okay for me to not like things that a past version of me did, right? It's okay for me to acknowledge, hey, this is an unhealthy behavior that you had. This is something that could be improved. Let's work on it, right? It's okay for me to acknowledge that. But what I was doing before was like shaming myself. Oh my god, I was lost, I was imperfect, like I made all these crazy decisions, I was chaotic, I didn't really focus on school. And it's like, when I think about it, it's the cards I was dealt. You know what I mean? It's not like if I knew to make better decisions, if I was more mature, if I knew what I was doing, where I was going, I would have done that. And so that the decisions that I made then has created the person that I am today, right? Because had I not been lost, I wouldn't have been able to be found. I wouldn't have been able to know what it's like to be found. And granted, even in the present moment, I'm not always found. I'm not all put together, right? But I have more structure. I have more of an idea of a direction of where I want to go, and I'm very focused on it, and I'm very passionate on it, right? Um okay, somebody just pulled up and it's awkward. Okay. Thank you. It's okay, thank you. And so, feeling like I was unlovable, like that's okay too, because again, that's programming, that's conditioning, not knowing what I want to do in life. A lot of people don't know what they want to do in life, not feeling like I was good enough or as good as the people around me because they went to a university and I went to a community college. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people, college isn't for them. You know what I mean? College isn't for everyone. And so it's like I felt really alienated in my experience. And so I feel like that's when I was like, this is you. Like, this is a you problem. Like, you are the thing that is the fuck up. Like, you are the thing that is like making my life this way. And like, you made me experience this. And it's like I feel like upset with that version of myself for, like I said, the decisions that they made. But it's like, I made those decisions. Those are the decisions that I made because those are the decisions that I thought I had to make. I wasn't aware of healing. And then, once I started going to FAM, my life started looking up. Once I started going to FAM, that was when no, I think on like the later end is when I started getting into healing work and like creating my blog. But I definitely created my blog when I was going to FAM. But it's like once I started going to FAM, I started feeling better because that's when I changed my major to communications and journalism, which I really like communicating. I really like talking. I enjoy um, that sort of interactive industry. And so once I started doing that, that's when I sort of found my footing and I started liking going to college. And it wasn't as dreadful, it wasn't as negative, it wasn't as hard on me. I also cut off the people that were not good for me. That's where it started, right? I started cutting off people that weren't good for me. I had cut off people that weren't good for me because 2020 is just when my life completely changed, with the whole BLM thing. And then that's when I started going to uh, FAM. And so yeah, once I started going to FAM, things started getting better, and I um I started realizing like maybe school isn't not for me. I think it was just the major that I had. I think it was just the life things that I was going through and the way that I felt about myself and the state I was in. But then, even when I was going to FAM and I was enjoying it, I still was like, I like at the end of when you're graduating, you had to put together a portfolio, and I was like, I don't really care about this enough to like make a portfolio. Like I still wasn't very passionate and like fired up about journalism and communication, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. Like it felt better than all the other things I had done. But at the same time, it's like I didn't feel like that was really what was like my niche, my thing. Um and then, I had the fallout with my ex best friend. So I had to move my apartment. We stopped being friends. I lost my car. And so when all that happened, I had to move. And when I moved, that's when they were taking online courses out and people were going back to school. So then I was like inevitably, like it's so wild too, but like I had no choice but to really drop out of FAM because I wasn't living there anymore. So I couldn't go to class anymore and there weren't online classes anymore that I needed to take so I could keep going. So I ended up by default dropping out. And I feel like when I dropped out and my life started falling apart, that's when I started manifesting, realizing I was manifesting, and I started realizing that was never where I was meant to be. And I already knew that, but because it's the norm, because it's what's put on us, I was doing it because I said, okay, if I leave, I don't have any other idea what I'm going to do. I don't have any other passion. I didn't have any other ideas, right? But once I started manifesting and my life started falling apart and I started getting into spirituality and creating a connection to God, that's when things started coming to light for me, and I started realizing my trauma and I started healing and I started seeing like, oh my god, I'm passionate about this. Like I like talking about this. I like working on this. I like researching about this. I like hearing about this. I like talking about this. And that's when I realize that this is my passion. This is where I'm meant to be, right? I was never meant to go to college and do the whole that thing. And I was never meant to be a normal person, an average person. And like, no hate, no tea, no shade to people who go to college. Like, but me personally, like, I just don't feel like one, college is for everyone. But two, I feel like college is a scam. Am I going to sit here and say your degree doesn't matter because you went to college? Absolutely not. You put in the work, you fucking deserve that degree. But am I going to sit here and say like college is the most rewarding thing and college is the thing that everybody should do and that? No. I'm not going to say that because I don't agree with that rhetoric. I don't agree with that way of thinking. I don't agree with that way of life. I think that we should all actually have more options. I think that we should expand versus like everybody do this one thing that everybody knows. You know what I mean? And so I am the living, breathing example of doing something different. Now, of course, because I'm doing something different, my path's going to be different, right? I'm not going to have it as easy as somebody who might have just who might have went to college and got a degree, right? They could go anywhere and apply for a job that has their degree and they'd probably get it. But for me, it's like I have to sort of pave my own way. I have to sort of be a trailblazer. But that's who I am. That's who I've been meant to be. That's why I've had to go through the struggle of being lost, of feeling unlovable, of feeling unworthy, of feeling less than, in making all those decisions, in being messy, in being partying, in partying, in going through escapism, in drinking, in going out, in, liking it but like not really liking it. Like I had to go through all of that so that I would be able to find myself, to find my light, my love, my power, the tower. You know what I mean? Like I had to go through that. And that's what I mean by like I see that those decisions that I made ultimately make me the person I am today. And while I was so upset with that version of me, it's like there's so much compassion and understanding and empathy and care to be had for that version of me, actually, because I was genuinely struggling. I was genuinely lost. I was genuinely confused. I was genuinely depressed. And I didn't even know I was depressed. But when I look back, I'm like, damn, girl, you was skinny. And then I remember sometimes I would have nothing for dinner or a snack, or I'd have rice and onions. I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely experienced the struggle for sure. And it was up, down, up, down, up, down. You know what I mean? Because you get into a relationship, things are good, you're going to school. You get in a relationship, you just think things are better, life is good. And then that relationship starts to go down, and you're like, oh shit, everything's coming back up. Everything's happening again. I'm losing control. You know what I mean? And so once I met that emotional threshold that I mentioned, that's when I was like, I gotta change. But I really struggled to feel like I just belonged in college, to feel like that was the space for me. It just never felt like it was really for me, but I've always been a light. I've always been this bubbly, outgoing, bright, shiny, pretty, popular, uh, person. Besides middle school, I wasn't really popular. But that's like the second half of high school, like 10th grade up, because I started dating somebody popular, as when I started going up in life. Like I started creating a reputation. People started flocking to me. I started realizing like, oh shit, I'm getting popular. And then when I got to college, we had the gay squad. Like, I've always been like this sort of spotlight person, but like I didn't see that within myself. I didn't see that within myself. I wasn't aware of that within myself. And so it's like I never thought I was going to be a leader. I never thought I would be the person I am today. I never thought I would pave this path. I never thought I was going to be into healing. If you asked that past version of me, hey, like what do you think you're going to do when you get older? Up, I'd be like, this, I guess. Like I don't really know what else I can do. I was just going to ride it out. But obviously when I started manifesting, God had other plans and I had other plans. So here I am. And it feels really good to say that, but it's pretty wild to think about, because it's just like, wow, like I'm chewing my nail, so if you see my mouth moving weird, that's why. But it's just wild. Like this is real, this is me. Like that's the vibe. And this is crazy. Like it's wild. It's just wild. I never expect the unexpected. You know what I'm saying? That's very much the energy. And so, to the past version of me in college that was struggling, that felt depressed, that was down and out, that felt hard on themselves, that felt like they were dumb because they weren't college smart, right? I would say I'm not book smart, right? Like I never liked taking quizzes and reading books and studying. Like I just dreaded that shit. And so it's like it's not that I was ever a failure or dumb or less than in the mind, because I'm clearly very intelligent, right? I'm clearly an intellectual. But it's like I was not catering to the soul that I have. I was not catering to myself. I was catering to the world. I was catering to what's normal. I was catering to what I thought I had to do and what I thought I had to be and who I thought I had to think and all that. But when life and I started catering to me, that's just been reflected back to me. You know what I mean? And so I'm very grateful for that. And I feel like I have to be grateful for that past version of me, because it literally did make me the person that I sit here today making this video. And that is just like incredible. Like, that's just like, wow, like that's real as fuck. You know what I mean? But college was hard for me in hindsight, looking back. When I was in it, I don't think I realized. And I mean, I realized my racial trauma and all these types of things, and so it's like I didn't realize how much I was struggling for real until I was out of it, and I was like, oh wow, like I was struggling. When I was being judged, like I said, I dated a narcissist, and that narcissist just made me feel, again, really good, but then they just made me feel like fucking shit, and that I wasn't enough, and that I was dumb, and that I had nothing going for me, and that I was a lost cause, and like I was unlovable. And it's just like, it really just brought me down even more, right? It just took me down even more. It tried to break my fucking soul, but nothing's gonna ever break my goddamn soul, and that's on period. I don't care. So yeah, college isn't for everybody, and that's okay. If you go to community college, that's okay. It's okay to be where you are. It's okay to not make the best decisions, to not know everything right away, because that's why we learn. That's why we go through it and we grow through it. And that's what I've had to do. That's what you have to do. That's what I'm still having to do, right? And so it's all really just a learning experience. It's all really just existent. And we just have to learn how to flow with it, how to be with it, how to grow from it, how to heal through it. To the past version of me, I'm sorry. I am sorry that I was so hard on you. That's what I feel like I really was. I was being judgmental and hard on that version of me, because that's really what I was brought up in, right? Judgment, criticism, being critical. But like, I can have compassion and empathy for that version of me. Like, I can see that version of me with love instead of fear and judgment and criticism and you should have done this and you need to be like that and da 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 da, because that's not true. Like, that was who I was. Period, point blank. That was my experience. Period, point blank. I don't have to be or have had to be anything else, right? I'm putting that on myself, and I don't want to put that on myself. I want to accept that that was me and integrate that and understand that and own that, versus, oh yeah, I partied, like, and I did this and I did that and da da da. No, I did do that. I did party, and people probably have videos of me that I'm sure are gonna come out one day. I don't know, but and I did party. I partied it up. I partied it up. You think I didn't? I did. Oh yeah, I drank it up. You think I didn't? I did. Yeah. School was not my priority because I was already like lost. Did I still go to classes? Did I still get the grades? Yes. But was I really like, school, I know this, I know that? No. And I can't expect myself to have been like that when I was already lost. You know what I mean? I'm having unrealistic expectations on myself at that point. So if you watch this whole video, thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. Go ahead and like, comment, and or subscribe. Well, actually, subscribe, like, and or comment. Okay. And yeah, thank you for 70 subscribers. I noticed that and I was like, we're going up. So we're going up. I'm still going up. I remember that the first video I made on this account is moving on up, you want to come, I think. And I am moving up. So thank you, God. Thank you to myself. Thank you to my growth. And just thank you for you guys and whoever for riding with me and for supporting me. So I love you, and I'll see you on my next video. Peace.